It's another edition of Toro Talk as the Mason City Toros get set for a big weekend series against Granite City. And to preview that action, we're joined by Toros head coach Nick Bruneteau, and I'm Joel Norman with you here again for another edition of Toro Talk. Now, Coach, we got a big series coming up this weekend with Granite City, 2 games in as many nights. This is kind of a measuring test early in the season in a lot of ways. The only 2 undefeated teams left in the West Division. What are some things you're kind of circling that you're kind of keeping an eye on specifically about this opponent?
Well, I think they're a heavy team. If you watch them on film, they finish every check, especially the fact that they'll be at home. I think that should play into it a little more. So it'll be a good test for our guys, especially some of the young guys who haven't had a chance to play on the road yet. There's no better place, I guess, than rivalry week right out of the gate for them. So I think that'll be a good test for everybody, not just our young guys.
How do you prepare guys for the road? Is it kind of the only way they're going to learn is through experience in a lot of ways?
Well, I think a lot of these guys come from programs that do a good job of prepping them. Most of them come from AAA programs or Minnesota high school, so I think road games are not new to them. I think the fan experience, that could be a little different for some of our guys going into a place that usually does a good job of packing it. But no, I think those things will come up, and there's nothing really you can do to prep them for it other than them just experiencing it. So I think it really will be a good thing for us to have these games right out of the gate.
A lot of goals in the first 2 home games against Alexandria. You get 8 on opening night, a tighter game the next night with 3. But regardless, 11 goals through 2 games is pretty good. We kind of figure that goals aren't going to come as easily against a team like Granite City. They've allowed just 5 goals through 4 games. What have you and assistant coach Marquise done to kind of prepare for that, so to speak? Or is it something you're saying, we're not really giving this attention, we're going to play our type of game regardless?
Well, I think it's more so, less preparation and more so just the fact that they're a good team. They've had success not just this year, but years past, and I think that stems from the organization that the coaching staff has built there. Similar to us with what Todd has done, they have the same thing in place there, and you can see why they've had success. They're very disciplined. They play a heavy style of game. Everybody finishes their checks, and it really will just be a good test for us to kind of see how we can handle it right out of the gate.
A couple nice honors for you guys right out of the gate, speaking of which. Carter Newpower getting named the West Division's Player of the Week at the NA3HL level, and then Easton Talk's goal with a lot of great passing beforehand getting named the top Player of the Week. What does that mean out of the gate, getting those kind of honors and just realizing, hey, maybe we've got some special players here?
Yeah, it's awesome for those guys to get recognized. I'm sure if you asked Noobs, he'd say he's not worried about that. He's worried about the weekend, and same thing with Easton, and I think that speaks to the character of guys we have. It's always nice when you can kind of reward guys for a nice goal or a nice weekend like Noobs had, 3-3. So we're happy for them, but it's I think that's the mentality of the players, as well as the coaches, is it's kind of move on to the next thing. So that's where we're at right now.
That top line was fantastic. As advertised, we kind of figured coming into the weekend they would kind of carry some of the play. Obviously, they can get a ton of ice time and get some goals. Obviously, they did. Newpower with 3, Campion with 2. Felt like Iso guy was assisting on every puck that went in the net. Talk about, it's great having that, but talk about how you want to see some depth scoring from the other lines as well. It seems like that's something that this team is still trying to figure out right now is what are we going to get from those other 3 lines?
Yeah, and you said it. I mean, our first line's been so good, and you can't expect them to keep that pace all year. And we know they can play it just about against any defenseman or any line in the league. But with film these days, teams are going to start to key in on that. And they're going to try and tighten it up when those guys hit the ice. So we know that, and we're confident with our second, third, fourth lines. We think that they're right to just start producing here. And we brought in another new player, so we'll see if he can play, but he's from Sweden. We're not sure if his transfer will get through, but we're excited about him as well. And, our third line in the first game, they had plenty of chances, they just didn't score, and then our second line, they scored in the first game. So I don't think it's, there's that big of a gap. Our first line's obviously dynamite, but I think our other lines are contributing just fine, and that'll start showing up on the score sheet as well.
Talk about the effort by your defense on Sunday. The day before you had 6 defensemen, the next day you only got 5. Everyone kind of stepping up and rotating in. And, in a game like that, we figured it was going to be tighter. You figured there's not going to be a combined 13 goals once again. It really felt like the defense stepped up in game number 2 against Alexandria.
Yeah, they did for sure. And obviously that starts in the net too. I thought Eric Chafe was very good all night. And when you have defensemen like Brennan Sloth that have to play 26 minutes a night, it's never easy for a guy to do that, and I thought he handled it very well. He picked his places, when to go and when not to go, and it really was a group effort. I mean, we had all 5 of them going, and you could really see, especially on film, the difference between Saturday night and Sunday. It was a big difference, and I'm happy our defensemen kind of answered the bell there for the second game.
Talk about this. We mentioned the first road trip. What excites you the most about going on the road from your personal standpoint as a coach? This is your first time getting to take a team on the road. What are some things that fans and families can kind of expect of a Nick Bruneteau team on the road? What are some characteristics you anticipate?
Well, I think we're going to play hard. We're obviously going to stick together, and one of my biggest things is the bench energy, and I thought we did a good job of that over the weekend. But it's always a little more difficult on the road to wrestle those maybe those lulls and get the momentum back. So that's going to be key for us. Is when we do lose momentum or we do have a couple bad shifts, how quickly can we grab that momentum back? And I'm expecting our guys will be fine with it. I think that's more of a character thing than effort. So I think just knowing the character we have in this locker, I think we'll be fine.
And speaking of momentum, you scored a couple of power play goals over the weekend, and as luck would have it, both came in the third period. That's got to be a nice thing to have moving forward. Talk about your confidence in your special teams right now. It felt like the penalty kill did a pretty good job, and a couple goals allowed, but regardless, there was a lot of chances, and they thwarted those. And the power play, it seemed like they were finding ways to get pucks on net, especially when that top unit was out there.
Yeah, I mean, I think our penalty kill can be better, and obviously we talked about that this week. As far as the power play goes, it's always nice when you score goals. A few of them were broken plays, so not anything our coaching staff drew up. It's just good hockey players making good plays. So credit to those guys. But yeah, it's so much of it's confidence. So I mean, if we go last weekend cold without any power play goals, I think maybe that makes a difference this weekend, and just having a little bit of maybe the first power play doesn't go our way kind of thing, just having that confidence of, hey guys, we know exactly what we're doing, we've scored, and we can do it again. So I think that'll help us this weekend.
Plans in net for the weekend. You've kind of rotated guys so far. Are you expecting something similar until someone really grabs, no pun intended, the bull's horns?
Yeah. So Knight will be starting on Friday. We kind of have that 3-headed monster going right now with 3 goalies in the building. So our plan is to play him on Fridays. That way, every goalie will have an opportunity, and then from that point moving forward, we'll just have to evaluate each day.
Well, Nick, best of luck on the road. A big test coming up this weekend against Granite City.
Thanks, Joel.
That was Nick Bruneteau, head coach for your Mason City Toros, joining us. This has been Toro Talk.